Hey everyone, it's Lindsay here, and today I'm going to show you how to finish your I Love Fall most of all into a pillow with the kit you got in your Sip and Stitch box. So in your kit you will get a piece of orange fabric, the neutral gingham print, a piece of wool for the back, and then some twine. Other supplies you'll need to gather: scissors, a rotary cutter to cut your fabric to size. I like using my Soline air erasable marking pen to mark on my cross stitch piece. So the first thing that you're going to do is I have marked, I kind of marked this a little bit differently than I have in the past, and the reason why is because these two edges here are going to be the very outside of the pillow, and I like to have a little bit more seam. After my seam allowance, I like to have a little bit more space, so when your pillow is full, you can still see the full cross stitch without it going too much onto the side. So I've marked 3/4 of an inch from the furthest stitch on this side and the furthest stitch on this side, and then on this side we are doing 1/2 inch from your furthest stitch on this side and this side. And if you have stitched this on the recommended cloth, which is 28 count, your cross stitch piece where I've marked is about 6 inches by 5.5 inches. So that's if you did it on the 28 count. If you did it on a different count, it's going to be different. So if you're using 28 count and you're wanting to finish it exactly like the picture, your orange piece you will cut to 3.5 by 5.5. And then your plaid, you're gonna cut to 4 inches by 9.5 inches. If you used a different count, then your this measurement will be a little bit different, and so will this measurement. So on this one, so we're going to first take your orange piece, place it right sides together, and I'm lining it up with the line on this side, and I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to take that to my machine and quickly do that, and then I'll come back and press. Okay, so I've sewn my line, and before I trim off any excess, I just like to double check and make sure I have my seam where I want it, that I didn't go too far in or too far out. And so I'm going to trim off the excess cross stitch fabric right here. And then I'm going to just give it a press. And I like to press from the back. Okay, so there is that piece. And now what I'm going to do is take your plaid, you're gonna line it up right sides together, and the reason I made my line is so I know I'm straight. So, and then I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and do 1/4 inch seam all the way down. Okay, so I have done my 1/4 inch. I'm just going to peek at this and see, okay, am I good? Do I like that distance? And I like it. I think it looks nice, so I'm going to trim my excess cross stitch cloth right here. And then I'm going to set my seam, turn it around so I'm ironing from the back, and gently press that seam. Okay, so now I like how that looks, and I'm going to trim where I marked my other 2 lines really quick. Just double checking that I'm straight. A great way to reference if you're straight is using the lines on your ruler. Like I can see right here, this is straight with this set of stitches. So I just wanted to double check, make sure I'm straight. And then this line, I'm going to line up there. Again, I'm going to look to see where I am stitch-wise and kind of make sure I'm nice and straight. Okay, so there is your front. So for the back, you're going to take your plaid or gingham and you're going to put your pieces right sides together. If you want your pieces to have a little bit more stability, you can use interfacing. SF101 by Pellon is a really great interfacing. It stabilizes your fabric so it's not so floppy. You definitely can do that. I do use it sometimes I don't. It's just a personal preference. So for this demonstration, I don't have any ironed onto these pieces. What I'm going to do is, if you want, you can pin your layers together so this doesn't shift. What I like to do is I purposely make this back piece bigger so that I can just take it straight to my sewing machine and start sewing all the way around 1/4 inch. And if it does shift, it's okay. I'm not gonna like run out of fabric on the side. But if you are really want your plaid to be really straight, then I would pin it into place. So I'm gonna take this to my machine and I'm gonna start on a side and I'm gonna stitch 1/4 inch all the way around, and I will back stitch to make sure my seam is secure. Okay, so I have sewn 1/4 inch all the way around. I did a back stitch there, and now I'm going to trim off my excess fabric. If you do not like the method of what I'm gonna demonstrate next, you would leave a space. You would not sew your pillow all the way shut. So I would start stitching here, sew all the way around and leave about an opening like this, and then turn it inside out from your opening that you left. If you don't like cutting into your backing and making a hole in your backing like I'm about to show you, which we cover it completely with wool, but I know some people do not prefer this method. So I'm making sure these are separated. Make sure they're separated so you don't cut into your cross stitch piece. I'm gonna snip, and I like to kind of make an X, and I don't want to make it too big. But you want it big enough that you can turn it and fill it with your polyfill. So I'm turning it right side out. Okay, so I have this turning tool. These are really helpful. Just be gentle. I'm just turning out my corners. And when you use this tool in the corner where your cross stitch cloth is, like this corner right here, it can easily go through the holes. So like I just kind of put it through the hole just now. So just be really gentle as you turn out that corner. If you decide to use interfacing, you won't have as big of an issue accidentally putting your corner through. I'm gonna look at this and you can see it's nice and wrinkly, so I'm going to give it a final pressing before I fill it. So, and you can see my hole. This will be my wool that I'll put over the hole. And again, I am pressing from the back. That's just a personal preference for me. When I'm on the actual cross stitch cloth, I'm gonna press from the front on this, on just my quilting cotton. Okay, so I think that looks nice and pressed. I prefer to fill my pillows first with these poly pellets, which we have in the shop. And it comes with this great nozzle, so if you don't have a funnel, then you're okay. So I just put it in there, and this is a pretty big pillow, so I'm going to use quite a bit. Get that. And this kind of adds, well, it adds a heaviness so your pillow will sit up nicely, but also it fills in those corners and it doesn't make your pillow have lumpies from your polyfill, which I'm now going to backfill the rest of this in with the polyfill. And before, when I would just use polyfill, you have to really fluff this so you don't get like lumps in the front of your pillow. But since we're using the pellets, you don't have to be as careful. And so I'm going to start taking this and filling it. And it does take some time, especially since, you know, I don't like to cut my hole very big. So it does take some time to get it in. So I'm gonna pause and fill this full with my polyfill, and then I will show you what to do with your wool. Okay, so I have filled it as full as I want it, and you can see it looks nice and good, and I feel like the seam, like the allowance we left on these sides is perfect. So now you have the hole in the back. You can do one of two things. You can stitch this on with just a needle and thread and do a running stitch or a blanket stitch, or before you do it, we can add the twine and then put it over. So either way, I've done it both ways. So to add your twine, you're gonna fold it in half completely, and then where you see your half mark, I'm going to wrap this around, and you can wrap it around, I think 3 times. So wrap once more, and honestly, however many times you like it can be a personal preference if you just want to wrap it once. I like the look of it having like the 3 like that. And now I'm going to tie my bow, and what you can do is kind of, I'm going to tuck that in so I kind of have that all gathered. I'm going to tie a little knot, and I'm doing it over in this corner where my fabric meets. And then I'm just gonna tie my bow and pull it. You can make the bunny ears as big as you want. I think that looks good. And then grab some scissors, and I'm gonna trim mine about right here and see how I like it. I think that looks good. And that's it. And so now I can grab my needle and thread and do it, or I can tuck it under here. I actually prefer sewing it over like doing my stitch over the twine. So that is how you finish your pillow. And I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you next time.